Upcoming season today. We're going to look at the defensive backs and Shock. Some big-time returners here, but also a lot of new faces with something to prove. So let's start with the cornerback. Here you've got an all-SEC corner in Dalen Everett returning for her senior season after leading the Dogs in interceptions a season ago. Daniel Harris also returns. He had a great spring game. And as of now, those two are kind of your two expected starters at both of those corner spots.
They are. They have the most experience. You talked about Dalen and what he did last season. Two of the biggest games of the year versus Texas, coming up real big. And then I think he's going to have a big season right here. My man, Big D Harris, he has to. He has the size. He has the athleticism. It's time to put it all together and put it on the field and show exactly what he's about and be that consistent player that they want. Now, there's been times where he wasn't consistent, but that guy number 6, he came back to Georgia for a reason. I expect him to be talked about as another Georgia player that gets taken in the first round.
And people forget, because of the way the season ended, he was the MVP of the SEC championship game. So obviously big time getting him back. Now behind Everett and Harris, you've got a couple of talented redshirt freshmen. Obviously Ellis Robinson's a former 5-star prospect. We're obviously expecting to see him battle out maybe with Harris for some playing time, but also DeMello Jones. How confident should Georgia fans be in the depth behind Everett and Harris?
Well, the good thing is I get a chance to be around this program a lot, and I've heard a lot of good things about both Ellis when he first got to Georgia. And I'm talking about way back last year, we were getting ready for the bowl game, and they talked about how well he was doing in those practices. And I think he is one of those guys I think that absolutely can fill that void and come in. He has another year on his belt. He's been in the system. He understands what Kirby Smart and Schulman wants them to do. And then you talk about, my man, DeMello, who's done a really good job as well, has the physical side. Saw him last year a couple times, had some little experience here and there, but both those guys, I believe, have the opportunity to play if need be, to step in those roles. But you feel good about Everett and Harris, but if you have to go to your backups, 2 other 5 stars are not bad to go to.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning Andre Evans, another redshirt freshman. He had ACL surgery in the spring, so he's not really expected to play much, if at all, this fall. Now let's look at the star or the nickel corner spot. Jonel Aguero seems to be the leader right now there, Shock, but there's some depth here as well. A couple safeties from the transfer portal, and Adrian Maddox and Jaden Harris could see some time, and not to mention redshirt sophomore Kyron Jones.
Yeah, and you talk about Adrian Maddox, came from UAB. One thing that stuck out to me, I started to, do a little bit more research on these guys. Jaden Harris, comes from Miami. Kyron Jones, all of them are about 6 feet, 200 pounds. That tells you there's a particular style they want for this position, and this has been a huge position of need for Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann in their defense. Jonel Aguero has been kind of sitting back, waiting his time, wanting to be this guy. He had opportunities over the last year or two, and he had some up and down times, but this is a guy I think absolutely will take the void and be good. But Adrian Maddox, you're talking about, you go out and get these guys in the transfer portal for a reason. We talked about it on the offensive side of the ball. When you bring in these type of players, you expect them to come in and have some kind of impact, and I expect both of those guys to do it. To be physical, be able to come in the box, but also be able to cover guys out of the backfield. These will be guys I think that absolutely have the skill set to get it done in this system.
Yeah, and I mean Kyron as well, right? Like he could be a guy that could obviously factor in this season. Now, let's move to the safeties. Shock, there's a lot of crossover between the free and strong safety spots, and with the transfers as well. We just talked about a couple guys at the star position. They can obviously play at safety as well. But Ja'Cory Thomas right now seems to be the favorite to man the strong safety spot. And I think the most exciting player in the secondary, no doubt, is sophomore KJ Bolden. A lot of high expectations for him as he takes over a free safety.
Yeah, KJ came in, 40 solo tackles. We saw him play early in this year. One of those kind of guys that come in, you say, you know what, he has that it factor. And I think the best thing about him is he came in, he got to sit behind a guy like Malachi Starks. He learned from Dan Jackson. You saw 2 of the best that play that position, and he was a guy that came in and was able to fill that void. When they needed Malachi to come up and play maybe up in the box, he was that high hold safety. So I'm happy to have a guy like KJ Bolden going in his second year, but also a guy who has played so much. And you talk about Ja'Cory, we saw Ja'Cory Thomas there, a guy who's played a lot as well. He actually started a couple games and then had some opportunities where he didn't play as well. Well, another year in his belt, another chance to show exactly what he's about. I think he fills that void as well. So I think you feel really good about the safeties.
Yeah.
Both of them have played a lot, have experience. Even though they're a little bit younger, I think these guys have what it takes.
No doubt. And I mentioned the transfers, Adrian Maddox, but also Zion Branch is a guy we haven't. Zachariah, his brother, gets talked about all the time. There's hype around Zion. He also came from USC. How much of a contributor do you think both of these guys can be in those safety spots, and how comfortable are you with what their roles could be this fall?
I think it's a depth thing. I think you got to have really good players in those depth roles. You have the guys you want, but here's also a situation where you have a couple players who are coming in and you expect them to fill voids of that depth role, which is if a guy goes down or you have to put in extra defensive backs, how comfortable are you? And I feel pretty good about it. You go out and get these guys. You go out and get the Zion Branch and say, you know what, we need your physicality to come on the back end. Say something goes awry with one of your players, he's a guy that can step in. So I feel good about those guys coming in and having an opportunity to play on the back end.
And I think it's worth mentioning, and we've heard this before, but Zion Branch was kind of figured to be a package deal with his brother. That is not the case. He is at Georgia for a reason. You know they're not just giving out scholarship spots to anybody. He's a guy you should certainly.
And that's one thing I was curious about was how would he fit into this Georgia defense, and was it just, all right, we really want your brother, so come on in.
Sure.
But when I watched him in the spring, I said, this guy's got some talent.
Yeah,
this guy
he's
has
physical.
some ability. This guy can go out and he can play in his defense. It wasn't just, we want your brother and you come along with him. He's going to have a pivotal role in this team as well.
No doubt, and there's no shortage of freshman talent at all of those DB spots either. Shock at corner, you got Dominic Kelly, Jonte Gilbert. At star, you got Rashawn Dinkens. He's already been creating buzz. Todd Robinson seems to have a high upside at safety, but are there one or two guys out of that list that you think can really be a factor as a true freshman?
That's a good one, man. I think Dominic is the guy that sticks out for me. I know you like a few other guys, but Dominic is a guy for me. You see he had the interception in the spring game on Gunnar Stockton. But he looks kind of similar to Malachi Starks in that 2-4.
2-4.
But I love the fact that he came in early and was willing to put in the work, and he's going to be a guy that has impressed, has those ball skills. So we'll see if he can hold on and be a guy that possibly contributes if they need it.
Rashawn Dinkens, just to mention, some people have said that they've talked about him being similar to a Lassiter or a Bullard when they first got to campus. So we don't want to overhype anybody,
big comparisons
but that
right
is
there.
high praise,
Yes,
obviously. All right, still ahead on Bulldogs.